Hey guys, and welcome back to De-Influenced, where I dive deep into the messy world that is influencer culture to call them out for their crappy behaviors. The week that I released my video, Kyra went on a podcast and did an interview where she dropped a bunch of bombshells. Oscar also released a video saying that he might be bringing the kids back online, ? So we're gonna talk about it. Let's go, guys. Like I said, I just recently did a video on Kyra where I kind of recapped all of the past drama and stuff that she's been through, all the controversies. So if you're curious and don't know much of the backstory, check it out right here, but please come back. Also, before we get further into this, please don't forget to like and subscribe because it really truly helps the channel out and my voice to grow and get stronger so we can continue calling out these a-holes. So the first thing I want to cover is the fact that Oscar is considering putting his kids back online. I watched the first question where they were discussing this, and he basically says that he doesn't know if he wants to put the kids back online or not. It's not a concrete decision that he's made yet. However, he is considering it and is trying to figure out if there's a way to do it ethically.
I'm a little conflicted with this topic. I really do miss it, but I want to discover if there's a way to do it ethically and morally.
Newsflash, there's not a way to ethically post your kids online. And it was interesting to me because they go kind of back and forth about, you know, there's dangerous people online, but there's also dangerous people everywhere in the world. Addie at one point said you're more likely to run into a dangerous person in person than on the internet, and she's had way more encounters in person.
But there is some cons.
I think another thing for me too is naturally there is really bad people on the internet, and I think I have told you this before too, is that as a woman or a child or even as a girl, you were kind of taught from a young age there are bad people everywhere, and I've encountered more disgusting, inappropriate things in being not on the internet, is in person, out in public. And luckily I was taught how to deal with those situations, I guess is the right word. That I think it's the same with the internet. It's become a part of society, and I don't think it's going away. That I think it's good to teach children how to deal with,
overcome those situations, yes, because it's a part of reality.
Not overcome them, but how to deal with them, because everyone has them. When you're younger, you're going to have inappropriate people on the internet, just like in person, like in public.
If you are a social person, you will have more encounters than the next person. The logic was kind of trying to justify putting kids online because it's safer than the predators that they might face day to day in real life. That just doesn't make sense. You have no way of knowing who's actually consuming the content of your children. It could be someone using a fake account, but it's a 40-year-old man who's just looking at pics of kids. You don't know, and that's the dangers. On top of that, you have the concern of sharing and oversharing and creating really strong parasocial relationships that are really hard to manage, especially in the wake of tragedy, which we saw very, very much so with Emily Kaiser, I believe is her last name, is how you say it, and her losing her son and people demanding information. That's the dangers of putting your kids online for people to grow to like and love and grow close to and feel like they know them, feel like they're close, like aunts and uncles. We've also talked about that in the Fluellen video that we did. It's so incredibly irresponsible to put your kids online, and I don't think that there is an ethical way to do it. Now, if kids are shown fleetingly in videos in the background or whatever, fine, whatever. Not a big deal, right? It's not necessarily exploitation because, as Addie said, you're not forcing your kids to come on and say these lines and do this script like the freaking Churkos do all the time, scripting their poor kids.
If Oscar wanted to bring the children on and have them like re-say things and like react, like that's working, and I think you deserve more than even the price they sometimes
give you.
Like 20.
But it's not like that when they're just in the background and you're kind of living your life and taking your kids along with it. I found it really interesting that Oscar is now going back on it and saying he misses it. He also recently quit real estate, which I honestly can't say that I really blame him. It's a very tough gig to break into, and as a new real estate agent, especially a male, it's probably pretty saturated, right? And so it's not really any surprise that he's considering putting his kids back online. Let me know your thoughts down below. I think it's just trying to make excuses to make it work, and I think that they're just hurting for cash, and this is the only thing that they know. And that just goes to show how lucrative it is to be a family vlogger online nowadays. With all that being said, Kyra dropped a huge bomb on the podcast that she went on, saying that her kids were found on a not so nice website. So here we are. Kyra is saying the quiet part out loud, the part we all knew, that these kids are on nefarious sites, that it is so easy for predators to take a 5, 10, 30-second clip of them and make whatever type of AI content they want. We've discussed it. It's terrifying. And here Kyra is saying that out loud, and Oscar's here being like, I think I'm gonna put my kids back online again. Just the danger of a predator consuming your child and the content for nefarious reasons should be reason enough to never put your kids online. That should be terrifying. And that takes away all of the ethical part of doing family vlogging, of paying your children and doing it ethically, not working them. The dangers of the predators should be enough to say no. So let's go ahead and watch the interview that Kyra did, because I'm really curious to see what else she has to say in it. I know that she talks about a lot of stuff, probably clears up a lot of rumors, and yeah, I'm curious. So I do have this sped up for those who speed up my videos. Okay, let's take a look at what Kyra has to say.
3 years ago, I was fired from my job. I was so happy. I felt like finally, with so many different areas, like not just a breakup that had happened, you know, everything's gonna just be great now. And then it was so—
She was fired from her job? What job did she have? Hasn't she been vlogging since she was like a baby?
Oh, the opposite. Yeah. And that was like, hey, that's not how that was supposed to work out, you know? And so, yeah, I definitely feel like I lost.
What's up, everyone? We are back, and we got Kyra Sivertson today. This is a big deal because in my life, I feel like Kyra has been around forever. Ali and I started dating in 2014, which, by the way, feels like another lifetime. But when we started dating, Ali was very persistent with YouTube. She was carrying on the camera all the time, and we also watched a lot of YouTube. So because of that, some of the biggest YouTube influencers, Aspen Ovard, we watched Kyra Sivertson, Okay Baby, we spent a lot of time watching, and just a lot of other ones. But Kyra in particular, I feel like we were so committed to her life with Oscar and their channel. So I know a lot about Kyra. I've seen the ups and downs.
I mean, a lot of people were very committed. That's why it was like the breakup that shook the family vlogging world, because no one was expecting it. Everyone was team Okay Baby.
And most recently, it feels like it's just been exclusively bad for Kyra. It started off with the breakup video, which we'll talk about in the episode, with her and Oscar. After having 4 kids together, being together for years, they post this breakup video that really felt like it was like in real time. Come to find out, she was dating her employee's husband, question mark. Like if you're hearing it and you're like, what's going on? That's a proper reaction to that. And then come to find out she was having threesomes, you know, all these like random things that came together to create the story of Kyra that really looked bad. She had essentially 8 years of bliss, making tons of money, top of the YouTube world, 1.5 million subscribers, to literally her whole world crashing down. We already recorded the episode. She was extremely—
Because she caused it. She threw her family away. She decided to step out.
Vulnerable. And we talked about everything. There's nothing in her life that happened that we did not touch on. Now, here's the important piece to think about when listening to this episode. Anytime we have somebody on and ask them these tough questions, they're going to give the best version of the answers. They're going to give the answers that, 1, sound the best, and they're going to give the answers that, 2, in their mind, they have formulated and believe to be true. Now, Kyra gave us a lot of information. She didn't shy away from any question. But that being said, there could be a lot of information that she left out. Because again, she's giving the best version for herself. Now, my conclusion when I was leaving the interview, I was excited that she was so vulnerable. I just appreciated her coming on. And I value somebody that's willing to look at adversity and look at criticism and public scrutiny and deal with it. And that's exactly what she did. I know for a fact that this episode is going to end up on—
Well, you know, if she ends up taking accountability for her actions for once, that'd be nice. I think that the reason a lot of people are so upset with Kyra is because she refused to talk about it. She refused to share any information and just kept saying, like, if only you knew, if only you knew, if, like, stuff like that. And also, she was just unapologetically living her life, which is arguably a good thing. But she seemed to have absolutely zero remorse for what she put Hannah and Oscar through, and just like this selfish move. That's the image that she painted. So
snark pages. This episode is going to be covered and probably watched in real time by people. And I love that. I want this to turn into a dialogue. You guys need to let me know what you're thinking in the comments. Let's get into it. That's the whole point of this. This is juicy to talk about. Best part of this, I'm going to ask the questions you can't, because I'm Isaac Rochelle and this is Don't Worry, I'll Ask. Enjoy the episode.
I appreciate that.
I don't think you understand how deep the lore goes with me and Ali watching like your stuff. It's been years. So Ali started trying to do YouTube when we first started. She was already doing it. When we first started dating in 2014, she was carrying around camera and like trying to record, and we would watch Okay Baby, which is crazy, right? That was 11 years ago.
Yeah.
And we would
I was
watch
like a child. Like, who let me have the camera in my hands?
It's—
You still are a child.
How old were you?
I was 18, I think. Maybe 17.
So young.
Yeah.
Well, Aspen Ovard, who I interviewed, started when she was 14. Something about Utah. Something in the Utah water.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we got to start. There's so many.
That's funny, because that's where all the family vloggers are. There's definitely something in the Utah water. Definitely.
Places that I could take this conversation, because you've had a lot over the last, let's call it like 3 years. You're probably just like, I just need a second to breathe.
Yeah.
Let's go back to the first pregnancy. And I want to understand the timeline a little bit. Were you guys vlogging before you got pregnant, or was it like, because you mentioned it was kind of like for memories?
Yeah, no, we were pregnant, and then we were moving to Montana, and our family lived mostly in California. And then I knew when I was 18, I wanted to start, once I graduated high school, doing makeup videos, which I laugh at now because I hate makeup, and like that would have never worked out for me.
We get it.
Yeah, like it was, but that was what was popular at the time, you know.
Sure.
So people wanted to do that. So anyways, then I got pregnant, and I was like, well, maybe we can just make videos about like our life in Montana and moving there. And so it kind of started off as like videos for our family, but like also hoping people watched, because even though it wasn't like a big thing then, people still had somewhat of an audience and it was cool. So I was like, oh yeah, let's try this. And Oscar was so on board and he learned everything. Like that's
he was
one thing.
editing, right?
Yeah. And when Oscar likes something, it's like all in, which was great because I could read something over and over again and never understand it. So he figured it all out. I had like my camera already. My dad had bought me a couple years before and then I never used it. So I was already pregnant, and then we moved, and because we were, I think, one of the first, if not the first, like teen parents on YouTube, it kind of gained traction. I would say really quickly now, but it didn't feel like it at the time. It did take like a year or two, but now I look back and I'm like, that's really hard to achieve in like a year or two.
Hard. When you think about like the first year, 2 years, what's the thing now that you look back at and you're like, immediately, no, I wish I wouldn't have done that?
That is such a good question. I think I got really, 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 really attached to what I did. You know, I really like loved making YouTube videos, and especially not necessarily, because actually, fun fact, really hated editing and like the filmmaking, even though it was vlogging. I didn't hate that, but it like wasn't my favorite part because it was stressful. God forbid I do something stressful in my life. But I think that like I got really attached to the audience and like making friends that way. And I really relied on that for like my social happiness and like my self-confidence. And obviously that went great until it didn't 3 years ago. And then the whole internet hated me. And it's hard in general for anybody. But then also I think I had like an attachment to my audience like I did a partner, and I felt like I lost everything. So I wish I would have taken what opportunities YouTube had given me from the beginning and like grew within myself with those opportunities rather than like building such an attachment, which it can go both ways, because I also think building that attachment is what helps me grow, right? Like connecting with your audience and stuff. But I think I'm still going through that phase right now, like recovering from disconnecting with like people I was so close with, you know, like my audience, which sounds kind of silly because it was a lot of people. Like, did you really have an attachment to all those people? But I felt like I did.
You were also
No, you had an attachment to the attention. The vibes that I'm getting from that, I don't see her being the person who interacts with her audience and has conversations in the comment sections and stuff like that. Like I really, maybe I'm wrong. I never watched OK Baby, so that's possible. But I really feel like what started to get to her was when the views started to dwindle and then the negative comments about her came out.
So 18.
Yeah.
Like, you're navigating relationships or a relationship with people like virtually, and like you're young, you don't even know you don't know who you are.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, like, you're also growing with Oscar at that point.
That's the thing. It was going the opposite direction. And that's why now, like my husband, I love when he's on the videos, but I will never again, like have that dynamic because I lost my relationship for a lot of reasons, but like that is a big one because we both were so into that in different ways that like there was no longer us. So we didn't grow together through it. We grew the opposite direction. I don't think either of us realized it till after all of it. And so it's one of those things where it's like, it's been the best thing in my life, but it's also been the worst thing in my life. And I've really like the last 3 years been navigating, like, I love this so much, probably stupidly so, but like, and I can't stop and I won't, but also like, I'm so angry that I did this. I'm so angry that like at the internet and like these people that are like, oh, I love your videos. And it's like, no, you don't, because one day you would like instantly turn your back on me. But it's like, yeah, of course they're just your viewer. And I'm like, no, they were my friend.
Wow. Jeez, that was a lot to unpack. I don't even know. Oh my God. But yeah, he's going to talk about Parasocial. Yikes.
Social relationship goes both ways. And with you guys, it's even more complicated because when OK Baby was at its prime, which I would love for people to understand like how intense the prime was, like you're just growing with these people. Like you were so entrenched with your audience. I mean, you were showing everything. You guys were posting daily, correct?
Yeah, daily vlogs for many years.
And how many subscribers did you guys have? Like, what was like the peak where you were like, okay, we're getting like 100,000 views a video? Like, what was the number?
In my mind, I remember when I felt like, holy shit, this is crazy, was 10,000. Like, I remember being at the post office and we were picking up fan mail because like back then, I don't know if people still do that. Yeah, like the PO boxes. Okay. And so I was there and we hit, I was there, but then we went home, something that day, but I remember we went to the post office that day and we watched like our live subscriber count that people used to do. Fun. And it was 10,000. And I was like, this is so crazy. Like that, I couldn't grasp it. And then I swear we went from 10,000 to 1 million overnight. It wasn't overnight. It was years.
But a million is crazy.
But I think 1 million is so big, I actually couldn't grasp that. So 10,000 was like so surreal, like but I could grasp it. You're just like, this isn't real. Like I don't even know what 1 million people looks like at all. And like also, I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't grasp that many people. I would say this.
It probably looks like 1 million people, just saying.
Spot though, 100,000 followers was
your sweet spot.
Yeah, like I felt like everybody who watched, I was able to read all the comments, mostly see all the messages, like mostly interact with everybody. And it felt like a community, but like, I don't know, just like close knit. And then, 1 million. And I was still grateful for 1 million. And like, I don't want to make it seem like it wasn't great. It was. but it was just different. That's when the pressure comes in. That's when like it's a career, and like, yeah, it's just a whole different level of what it was, you know?
Yeah, it's like me in the NFL. Like it's fun, and then you're like, oh wait, I'm in the NFL. This is a job. Like I could lose my job. Not that YouTube, you were worried about losing your job, but it's super intense.
Well, that's the thing. You think you can't lose it because it isn't. You can't be like dropped from it like the NFL. But like, essentially 3 years ago, I was fired from my job, but I like loved my job and was like, no, I'll do anything. Like, please don't fire me. So do you feel like you lost everything like 3 years ago as you knew it? Like it's just totally different. Yes, but I don't think necessarily all in a negative way. Like I think that's what was so weird too, is like I was so happy. I felt like finally with so many different areas, like not just the breakup that had happened, you know, so many things. I was like, okay, like I'm finally like just everything's gonna just be great now. And then it was so the opposite. And that was like, hey, that's not how that was supposed to work out, you know? And
what did you expect? Like, that's the thing. I genuinely don't understand. Sorry, guys, I think I'm getting sick. I genuinely don't understand what she was expecting. What you did with your actions, with the way you timed everything, and I don't understand. You expected a good outcome from this? Like, what did you think that people were just gonna be like, oh yeah, you stole your best friend's husband. Cool, yeah, cool, let's go over here now and play this house. Like, I don't understand.
So yeah, I definitely feel like I lost.
The 3 years ago thing is wild. Because like
you walked away.
You guys having 1 million subscribers. Like your life went from I have 1 million subscribers, we're vlogging every day, to like I'm doing this video where Oscar and I are sitting down explaining to everybody that we're breaking up. I just want to like start with like what went into the thought process of even feeling obligated to tell people? Because you guys shared a lot on those videos. They were very raw.
I think we were so used to sharing everything, and I don't regret that. Yeah, I really don't regret that, because I think that's how I made the connections and the friends that I did make. So I don't, even though a lot of it's embarrassing, like I don't regret that. I think though, because of how much, I mean, I showed panic attacks, I showed everything. And so it just felt like, well, that's the next step. Like, you know, most people are like, hey, we're getting a divorce and now you find a lawyer. And it's like, for us, it was like, hey, we're getting a divorce. Now we've got to make a YouTube video. Like it just was like what we felt like was the next step. And it was stupid. Like, that's what I look back on. I'm like, who gave a shit about the internet at that time? We were like losing everything we knew that wasn't, you know, like emotionally at least. And we thought to make a YouTube video, you know, like it just, I look back and cringe at myself because why did I care to make a YouTube video? Was it both of you? Did you guys like mutually agree like, hey, let's do this video? Or do you feel like it was one or the other? I do remember disagreeing on the timeline for sure. I think that, I don't remember a lot of that time, to be honest. I'm pretty good at disassociating. I kind of think it's a superpower though, so I'm not super mad at it. But a lot of it, I don't remember like exact details, but we both knew we had to make a YouTube video. It had to be addressed at some point. Yeah. Felt like as the audience watching, because I didn't know you, it was just like, this is so real time. Like it felt, when I say it was raw, like it felt like I am literally like, this is too soon. Like don't make this video. It felt like, and again, tell me if I'm wrong or explain it, but it felt like videos coming out and it was like, they just really discussed this, or it was like, this is being discussed right now. And there's obviously editing process and all this. I just want to talk about like what went into releasing those. Cause again, it felt so raw. Too raw. Like it should have never went on the internet. No, I think that the thing with that video is, and this is like, to be clear, my point of view, obviously, like I don't want to speak for him and like what he thinks, but I don't think we did really talk about it. I think that was the first time that we sat down and talked about our breakup. And
oh, yikes. Yeah, no wonder that was such a dumpster fire. What?
It was on camera. Like, that's the crazy thing. And I think that you can kind of tell. You can tell some of the things Oscar's like shocked by. But then I had a lot of his resentment at that point in my life for him of like, you're shocked by that? Like, hello? You know, and I think a lot of girls go through that. And it's not necessarily that puts Oscar in the wrong either, like with not knowing those things. It just, that was like the first time that we talked about it. We had like a conversation once about, do we think that we're going to split up? And then maybe there was like a little bit of conversation in between, but of like, yeah, no, this is like really done. But the first time that we had sat down and had like an in-depth conversation was that conversation. That's fascinating. Which is...
So they literally broke up on camera, basically. Wow.
Why you can tell, like, I think people see that video and like, I'm sure you were probably even like, geez, Kyra. Well, I'm outside looking and Allie and I were just watching like, wow, this is intense. Yeah. And like, I was laughing and I was clearly disassociated. Like I didn't have feelings, but that's because
excuses. I was clearly disassociated. No, you were literally laughing and mocking him and stuff. Those vibes that she was giving off in the breakup video were not this like uncomfortable, yeah, whoa, this is awkward type vibes. It was a duper's delight. I'm getting away with this and I'm happy where I am. Up until that point, the breakup video, she was on cloud 9. She was like, yeah, the breakup video, we're gonna be good and we're good and I already have a man lined up and I already this and that and this and that. She was good. So then going and filming that, already having a backup, right? Obviously she was all like and happy because she was on cloud 9 from being in the honeymoon phase in love, not disassociated and uncomfortable. Like, okay, that's an excuse. Like, that's not taking accountability. That's an excuse. I'm sorry.
Me, I had already had the feelings. I had already coped with the feelings. And now I was angry. And so, but for him, those were fresh feelings. It's the first time he's having those feelings. And so, you know, it's unfair that all of that was like on camera to both of us. Like what made us think to do that on camera? I don't think at the time we really realized this is our first conversation. But that's the thing, like as years have gone on, I've realized we didn't really have a lot of conversations. Things were really great. We were really good friends. Like I can say Oscar and I we got along really well as friends.
Yeah.
So if we weren't like absolutely besties, we were fighting. You know, we were very different people and we didn't really realize that, I don't think. And so we didn't have a lot of those in-depth conversations.
And this is probably why babies shouldn't have babies. So their entire relationship, starting from, I don't know, they were like 16, 15 when they met, had a baby at 18, and then 4 total back to back. They had no serious conversations until they sat down and filmed that dumbass video where she made a fool of herself. If that's not all the proof that people need that like stop having kids as teens, like babies should not be having babies, it's that their brain wasn't developed. Your brain doesn't stop developing and growing until 25. And here they are making decisions as adults when they're children and then adding children onto it and responsibility. It's just, good God.
About our relationship. And one of our biggest ones was on camera, you know? We kind of were just like, let's just make the video. We need to just make the video. And we turned on the camera and we just started filming. We didn't even really know what we were going to talk about.
We just like, let's just freestyle.
Which again, that's what I loved about our channel. I can honestly say, like, we didn't fake moments. I mean, there was clips that were refilmed or things like that, but we didn't fake things. That's never been a part of any YouTube video.
Just so raw.
Yeah. But I wish maybe we would have faked that video a little more, you know, like thought about what we were going to say.
Fake then.
Yeah. And so that made it worse.
So up to this point, though, you were not necessarily controversial, hadn't dealt with any like real like online drama. I mean, you had your podcast Beneath the Sheets, where you started to be like a little bit more out there, maybe a little bit more edgy. But up to this point, had you dealt with anything even close to the scrutiny that came from that video forward?
Absolutely not. I mean, there was like little things here and there that like were, you know, we maybe came off as like offensive about certain things. Like there was minuscule things for sure.
Yeah.
Compared to the level of this, but no. And that's why I think that it was so shocking as a viewer. Like I can understand the whoa. Like I thought you guys were great. I thought this was all great. And now you guys are breaking up and the breakup video looks like that. Like what has been going on that we're not seeing?
Yeah. And then from that point, it got so complicated. And this is where even in the conversation, it's kind of like, where do we even begin? Because I mean, it was like, Oscar, you guys are still vlogging, by the way, because Oscar was like sleeping in a different room. You guys are navigating that.
Yeah, we were crazy. We thought we were going to live together and still do Okay Baby and like show like co-parenting, living together. Like we were just thinking so positively.
Well, you bring up such a good point. Like you're like, oh, let's keep doing it. You're making a lot of money doing it. Yeah. So let's just start there. Maybe just talk about like the conversations around like, oh, we're breaking up. Now what? We have all this stuff. You guys had a ton of stuff. You're making good money with your channel. How do you, like, you're not technically married.
Yeah.
So like, how do you even go about that?
I think that we, again, because we had a decent friendship, even though
To the person that said they were married in my comment section, there you go. They weren't technically married. They were engaged, and sure, they were common law, but they're not technically married, just saying.
Separated, and like it wasn't, that part was rocky. Everything else was still great. So I think that's why we felt like we could still continue all these other things, because we still can be friends. We still can laugh together. We can still make these videos and, you know, a different dynamic for sure. But then also it's like, well, maybe that would be interesting to people that like, we don't want to kill each other. Like, even though we're separated, like maybe we can show this different,
I can see that,
you know, aspect. But then of course there's a reason why most people that doesn't work out for, because it just doesn't work out for, you know, many reasons. Like once you separate, there's just so many different aspects, you know, that you're a lot more forgiving about when you're in a relationship, and it goes both ways. Like, I think he probably realized like, wow, she's really annoying. Like I actually don't want to live with you, you know, like it can be little things or big things, of course, but
your tolerance goes out the window for stuff. Because you're like, we're not actually together.
And then you're also trying to self-discover, but with your ex in the other room, and like, you know, what do I want? Everything when you go through a breakup, no matter what, like kids know kids on the internet, off the internet, it rocks your world for a minute. And it's like, you're trying to figure, you're trying to figure everything out. And so doing that with like other people in your space didn't end up working out the way we wanted to.
You said something super interesting. You talked about exploring yourself. You like, really, it feels like a year before the public breakup, you started to become very sexually, like you talked about it, right? Like even with the podcast. Mm-hmm. When you decided you guys weren't going to be together, was there like a part of you that was like, I'm very ready to explore? I mean, you've been with the same person for a long time.
I think that I've actually always off camera been very open with like being sex positive. Like I think that it's a topic that people don't talk about that often because it can be inappropriate or uncomfortable or for whatever reason. Yeah. And I think it should be more normalized. So it seems like from a viewer's point of view, like, okay, all of a sudden she's talking about this. But if anybody in my real life knew me, that wasn't anything new. It just all of a sudden, when I needed a podcast concept, because I knew I wanted to do a podcast, it was like, that should be the topic, because it's so different than like my mom family channel that it would be a great like alternate thing. Because I didn't want to have a family channel and then like also do like a podcast that's so similar to that. I wanted to do something very different, something very on my own. So that change wasn't like I wanted to explore sexually different things. I wanted to explore something other than being like a mom on the internet. I wanted to feel independence. I wanted to feel intelligent on my own. I wanted to feel like I had a direction of my own because even though I wanted to start YouTube and I loved doing it.
There you go. She just said it. I wanted to feel like I had attention on my own. Oh my God, guys. I think I am getting sick. Oh no. Also, look what hubby got me. Look, I leveled up in my influencer status. I'm so excited. Yeah, she literally just said it. I wanted more attention of my own. So I just said it. The views started to dwindle. The attention started to dwindle. It wasn't this whole connection thing. It was the attention she was getting.
And all throughout the time that Oscar and I did it together, there's no denying that he was the talent behind the channel. Like he was the editor and he was, you know, the creative mind behind it. And so I lost a lot of my own confidence without even realizing it. And I wanted to have my own creative confidence. And so that's why I started Behind the Sheets. And so
it's Behind the Sheets?
Or beneath, gosh.
It's in the past. It's something in the sheets.
Behind the sheets.
Something,
Anyways,
something's happening in the sheets.
Something with the sheets. But yeah. So even though to a viewer it seems sexually driven, it had nothing really to do with that, you know?
And the issue with it is like, and I want to know if you regret doing that podcast because that podcast ended up fueling a lot of hate for a million different reasons.
Oh, yeah.
Do you regret doing that? Because I want to set the stage for the listeners because Preston, like you had an episode with Preston.
Yeah.
So again, like people were nitpicking that, right?
Yeah.
And it just gave people fuel. Like, do you regret doing that and everything around it?
No, really? I really enjoyed doing the podcast. I have a lot of great memories from it. I mentally was able to discover a lot about myself. Again, not just sexually. Like, actually, I didn't try anything sexually new while doing that podcast. But again, I like people, you know, take that podcast and are like, maybe that's why she ended up with Preston or like that. Even I think at one point, Oscar was like, I feel like there was like a turning point once the podcast started, you know, and people are right. There was. I suddenly realized I am my own person. I'm not just like, okay, baby. And like, I actually have passions of my own. And I did discover myself, you know, a little bit. And that was the start of that. And so I don't regret it because I think it gave me a lot of the confidence in myself, which I had none. And I didn't even realize it. Like, that's what's hard about, you know, in the beginning you asked things that I regret. All I can think about when I think about the beginning of YouTube is I was so sad and I was so lonely. And it just was like such a horrible time in my life that I don't think I'll ever recover from, you know, like, I mean, I will, but it was really hard for me. So sorry.
No, you're good.
I didn't know though. And I think that's what's crazy is like, that was me. But now looking back, I didn't even realize at all. Like, you were so unhappy, you know? But that's why I wanted it so bad and why I wanted, not the success of YouTube. I wanted YouTube because I wanted to connect with people because I was so lonely and sad. And it felt like this is going to give me friends. If 5 people watch, that's like 5 people that I can like meet, you know? And I think a lot of new moms especially like go through that. And that was.
Are there no like mom groups in Manitoba? No, where did she say she was? It started with an M. I don't know. Are there no mom groups anywhere or anything? There's no other way that you could have possibly connected with people. And I know that getting pregnant does alienate a lot of people, especially when you're younger, right? Because your friends are at a different place in life. They're partying, they're out going and living their life as children, not raising babies. Yikes. Don't get me wrong. I love the community and the connection that we've been building and growing here. But there's a huge difference between us interacting and being friendly and us interacting and being friends, if that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know.
The phase of life I was in when I started.
Wow. You were like 18 years old going through postpartum. Like, you're dealing with emotions that like are so hard to explain, and you're so young. Like, you're not even the final version of yourself because you're getting older and you're dealing with postpartum and you're showing everything on the internet. I can't imagine looking back at that person. You probably, like you're saying, it's like, that's not me.
Yeah, it felt out of body for sure. And so now when I watch those videos, it's sad because I know where I think I was at that time, but now looking back, you know, I can see and I know obviously where I really was. And it's out of body.
When you look back at that and you have that feeling, was there like a particular moment or even a video where you go, wow, I see that look in that person's eyes and I go, oh, that's where I was like lost?
The breakup video.
Really?
Yeah.
When's the last time you watched it?
So literally the last video filming, she's like, yeah, I was so lonely and dead and dissociated for so long. And is there one video that you look back on that you're like, yeah, that's a lost person, right? Oh my God. Okay.
I don't know. When I deleted it. So like, I think I deleted, or I put it on private maybe a year ago. Well, watched it. I don't know that I've ever actually sat through the whole thing, but you know, watched parts of it.
Yeah.
Probably like a year.
Crazy.
Because it's horrible. It's a horrible version of myself. And so one, I'm embarrassed by it, but also I see how angry I was. I was so angry, but I look so happy. And I have this like, and I think at that time I kind of felt like, okay, I'm happy. Like, it's just the emotion thing. I thought I felt a certain way.
Yeah, you were happy because you had a side guy and we're in the honeymoon phase of that. And we're all giddy because then now it's finally like we're telling YouTube that's the last little stick off our back.
But now looking back, I look back and I know like you were so angry and you didn't even realize it.
Angry at?
Everything. Like, I was just angry that I had made choices that I had made. I was angry that I was making the person next to me sad, but also like, just like a lot of women experience in relationships, like, how are you sad? You know, like I've been sad for years. And so I was angry at him. But then also I felt so bad that I was the one leaving, you know, like there's just so many emotions, and I'm not an angry person. And so that's another reason why I think I look back and I didn't realize it was anger, because I've never experienced a lot of anger. I'm more of like an emotional person. And so I didn't even know what that felt like. And now looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, that.
Because anger is not an emotion, guys. It's not an emotion.
That's about what that feels like.
Angry.
Yeah.
So we posted a video and we talked about the podcast that you started. We have to get into the speculations that you and Preston were already together. I mean, like, it's gotten to the point now where people assume they were for sure together. Oh,
they've decided. They don't just assume, like, it's like they have made up crazy storylines that they're set on.
Well, I have to see both sides though, because I can understand from the audience perspective how it would feel like that. It makes a lot of sense on paper. You had the podcast, Preston was on, breakup video immediately with Preston.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna like pause and let you talk about it, because most people are wondering like what the timeline was.
Well, here's the thing. Even the reality is messed up. The reality is I am married to him, and he was somebody who was my employee at one point, and then she was my best friend, and that was her partner. So no matter what, that is not okay. And trust me, if I could not have him be my husband, like I would have not. Right. Why would I have chosen that for myself, you know? But I think
because you're a selfish
people take that, even though it's already dramatic enough in my opinion, and really want to spice it up. And that's where like it just gets so out of control, and there's so many different narratives. And I actually have clarified it quite a few times, and people are like, why don't you just like say what happened? I'm like, no, but I have. It's not what you want it to be, so it's not the truth. But it is the truth. It's just not as interesting as what you want.
But let's double down here, because I want to know, like, when was the first time that you looked at Preston in this spectrum, this timeline, and said, I'm into that guy?
It's funny, we've talked about this with each other. Like, when did you like really know? Here's the thing, and this took me until I want to say about a year ago to realize Preston and I never were together while Oscar and I were together. Like, that was not, there wasn't this secret relationship going on. Like, I've never been that way. I thought that I wanted to be with Oscar forever, and I wanted that with my whole being, you know? And I think so did he. I think we both secretly in our own minds knew that wasn't gonna work, but that's what we wanted. And so that was never a thing of Preston and I being like in the background. But I think now looking back, you know, we had a lot of like game nights weekly as like a, what do you call that?
Like
couples night. Yeah. And him and I always did get along really well. He was socially awkward, so it took a while. But yeah, like I think we had a connection that I didn't notice at the time. It's not like when he walked in the room, I was like, oh my God, he's so hot. In fact, he wasn't, I never found him unattractive, but Preston, if like people know the people I've dated, he's not typically who I go for. So it's not like the first time I saw him, I fainted and was like, I gotta have him. Although that sounds fun. That's just not the way it went. And so there wasn't like a specific moment, but I do think that throughout those game nights, I did notice like, oh, we do laugh together. We do have fun together. And so I can admit, I think that there was a little bit of an emotional connection earlier on than I would like to admit. It wasn't like a year before or months before, but I think especially towards the end when things were like really bad between Oscar and I, there was more of an emotional connection happening than I wanted to admit, you know?
Yeah. And I want to be specific with the next question because, and I don't want to keep referencing this breakup video, but it fits in this combo.
It's a good video to reference.
Unfortunately, we're going to have to pause the show and like put in like the highlight tape. But you said, oh, there was no cheating. Oscar goes,
yeah. So he's not talking about Preston. That is a situation that is, it's not funny because it did hurt his feelings. Sure. And I feel bad that it hurt his feelings. I still don't think it was wrong, but there was a situation where a male was intoxicated and he had just recently had a breakup and he was crying and he was leaning on my shoulder and I was like, it's okay. Like, you know, and I was comforting him and both Oscar and I were intoxicated and he was there. And I think he saw it and was like, what's going on here? Like, you know, I don't know if he thought I was being flirtatious. Again, I don't want to speak for him. We haven't ever really, again, even that situation sat down and talked about it. That was a time he brought it up to me and I was like, that's not cheating. Like this guy I was comforting in a living room with 20 other people. Yeah. Oh yeah. That's the thing with that video, you know, so that's what he's referencing. I actually was the one to call Oscar and tell him, hey, I'm sleeping with Preston. And that was like maybe 3 months after Oscar and I had separated. So I was the one to tell Oscar. There was never like he found out about Preston and I and then, you know, went back this far and all that stuff.
Okay. So you call Oscar 3 months after you guys break up. You say, hey, I'm sleeping with Preston.
Because that's the friendship. That's the thing. Like Oscar and I had such a good friendship. We overshared. Like, even, I mean, he didn't need to know I was sleeping with Preston at that point. We're not together. He could have been sleeping with people. He might have been. He was definitely dating because I was giving him dating advice. I didn't need to call him and tell him who I was in bed with because Preston and I weren't together. So I didn't have this obligation of like, hey, I'm putting this person around our kids. That would be the time, right? That like you would want, or you would need to share with your co-parent. But like, that wasn't the situation. Preston and I were strictly having intercourse when he came over. And I felt the need to share that because we were friends and overshared everything. I do cringe a lot about some of that stuff.
But that decision to sleep with Preston imploded your life though. From the sense of like your friendships, the way people perceive you, the names people will call you.
It became my identity. I slept with somebody once and it became, at that time, because I didn't know he was going to end up being my husband. But yeah, who I chose to sleep with one time became my entire identity.
And you made a decision And love is love, right? So there's absolutely no judgment here from that perspective. But you definitely made a decision to make your life super complicated, even to have to explain that to people, like where he fit in your ecosystem. Just talk a little bit about the challenges and like why you decided that that relationship was that important.
Yeah, I think at that point in my life, I had 4 kids. I had just decided to leave a relationship where I did really care about that person and thought that that person was my forever. But then, having the realization that like, actually, do we like each other like that? And so there's that whole side of it. And then also I hated myself. I had no self-confidence, but I had thought I was a very confident person. So just, I'm at like what I thought, to be clear, was rock bottom. Like I just wanted attention, honestly, and I think not attention, but I think I wanted to feel loved and accepted. So in a sense, attention. And nobody understood, like even people in our personal life, like, but you guys get along. You have kids. What do you mean you're breaking up? And it's like, well, actually, sometimes you need more than that. I wanted more than that. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Yes, we were cordial. It's not like we were like fighting every single day. We were fighting a lot, but I wanted more than that, and I think that that's okay. But nobody around me felt that way. So I also had everybody just like making me feel like I was in the wrong. And then Preston had recently, I think like 2 months before, separated from his ex. And because he was the one to choose to leave, he was the only one, and we were around each other because he helped me move because he had a truck. And Oscar was in Florida, I believe, when I was like moving out. And so he was helping me. Plus he was my friend and he lived near. So like he would come over and like build the kids' beds or whatever. Yeah. And naturally when that happens, 2 single people that are like severely depressed and everybody hates them, we ended up sleeping together. I don't want to say it wasn't a good choice because I love him and I'm glad that I did it now. But at the time, should I have done that? Probably not, but then look, I did something.
See, probably not. Not definitely not. Not I regret doing that. And like, she doesn't have to regret the end result, but like you can regret doing that or doing it so soon or doing
that I shouldn't have done. And now it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. So it's so difficult to like.
Is it? Because I thought it ruined your life. This is the vibes I'm picking up.
That's the thing. We both know it's wrong. That's not how this should be. But it's so hard to find somebody in your life. And I think you only get about one opportunity truly where you find somebody that you can be any version of yourself and they're going to love you unconditionally. You're going to laugh together, but you're not just going to laugh together. You're also going to like sexually have, things that are in common and like all those things. So although it's so bad, it's ended up being so good.
You're going to laugh together, but you're not just going to laugh together. You're going to have fun in bed together. You're going to cry together. You're going to have heartbreak together. You're going to have happy moments and sad and adventures, and you're going to connect and you're going to try new things together. And no. None of that.
So it's so difficult, but neither of us are like sitting here like, oh, who cares? And we're proud of it. Like, no, it sucks. We still have to pay the consequences. When we go certain places, they're like, how'd you meet? And even if they know nothing about it, we have to be like, how do we tell people we meet, And then like our kids, we, with our youngest, well, I guess ours is the only kid that's from both of us. Do we tell her when she grows up? Like, how do you go about that? And it's like, yeah, my other kids I'm very transparent with. They know, like people need to know, our kids need to know that sometimes things don't happen the way that you want or that you think, but they still happen, and it ends up all working out. And some of those things I'm still waiting for some of those things to work out, but like, so neither of us think it's great that it happened the way it did, but both of us are happy it happened.
You guys both got divorced, broke up at the exact same time. And you're saying everybody should believe and trust that was 100% by chance. Yeah. And the universe just.
Especially 2 people that were in a relationship for many, many years. And like, how do you both within the same like 2 months separate from your partners? That's the thing too. Like I never tried to over clarify it because I'm like, yeah, no, I get it. I see the way it looks. That doesn't look so good. And if I were a viewer, this would be a great story because it's crazy.
It is crazy.
But I think that what people maybe don't realize is sometimes it does happen in friend groups where, so I left Oscar and then without like going into detail about Preston and his ex's relationship because that's their business. Totally. I think at that time he was like, I'm not very happy, but how do you do it? Because
did you guys talk about that? Did he ever say how'd you do that?
Yeah. And he had it pretty good. And so I think he felt really guilty leaving. Like I should be happy, And I never told him to leave, to be clear. That it wasn't discussed like that.
It is interesting though, because it seems like you guys had enough of a relationship where he was willing to confide in you and say, hey, you did this. Now I'm kind of feeling this way. I'm gonna go talk to Kyra.
So yes and no. We didn't ever actually, even though we were all friends, there wasn't a friendship that was separate between him and I. Okay. We didn't text separately. It was like I texted her for plans or whatever, and then we texted as like a group occasionally. Sure. But there was no like Preston and I having text conversations. And so once we did get close, that was already after both of us had separated from our relationships because we bonded, I guess. Kind of feels like over the fact that, which sounds so ridiculous and like self-pity, but like over being the bad guys. Like, okay, you get it. Like. Especially, I mean, in his situation was a lot different than mine, but either way, we both left people that we were with and we found a lot of comfort in each other in that way. So when he came to me, they had already been broken up, but he did come to me after that about like, do we live together after? And I was like, no, I tried that. I wouldn't recommend it, but I never recommended him to leave her.
Yeah, he's not like, Kyra, should we break up? And you're like, yeah, please. By the way,
And there was even actually a point where she came over to my house and he was there and we were already sleeping together. And
did she know?
Yeah. I had many conversations with her about sleeping with him.
What do those conversations look like? Where it's like, hey, I'm sleeping with your ex-husband.
Weird. Like very uncomfortable. But at the time also I was disassociating. So I was like very direct, very straightforward, said all the facts. But I also think that it was a little bit heartless because I was disassociated. It was just like.
You're also in this emotional and like sexual high because you're with a new partner. So you're kind of like, I don't care.
No, because I loved her. Like I really, that's what was also really difficult. Like we weren't having a good time in our friendship when him and I started. Like we had a lot of our own issues at that point. Again, because everything was going so bad in my life. I'm like self-sabotaging and we weren't getting along for other reasons. And so yeah, our friendship wasn't really looking great at that time anyways. But
probably because you were flirting and sleeping with her husband, just saying. I don't know. I want to believe her and I want to believe the words she's saying. I really, really do. I'm really trying here to give Kyra the benefit of the doubt. But there's something about this that's just like not quite taking accountability, you know?
Then, yeah, we did have those conversations. It never was like, it's not like I was ever like, I'm sleeping with him, get over it. That was never, ever the conversation. It was always like, I can't believe I'm doing this. Like, you know, but the truth, I remember I did tell her at one point, like, I would not risk everything if I didn't think that this would turn into something, you know? Right. And we both did agree at one point, like, hopefully someday in the future we can be friends again. But obviously this is like too fresh to be friends like this now. But I think she was one of the few friends ever in my life that is like that one of a kind friend. And I will forever.
Oh, yikes. And you threw her away. She was her one good friend. If you watch Jenny and Georgia, you know.
You can get through anything in life as long as you have one good friend. Who's your one good friend? You, silly.
If you know, you know. And she threw her away.
Ever like more in that friendship. Like that's what's so difficult about this too is I lost like who I thought I was going to spend my life with. I lost my absolute other person of a friend, but I'm also falling in love at the same time. And this is like all unrelated to each other, but related to each other and happening at the same time. And like now also don't forget I have 4 kids. So like put a smile on and like be present and be good and work because now you live on your own. You need to like make sure you can pay your rent and all that by yourself. So just all the things. And I think I went psychotic, like literally probably should have been put on a lot more medications than I was on. I just like lost
where's
it.
Where's my Wellbutrin at?
Yeah.
All the while, this guy who a lot of people don't like called Dad Challenge Podcast are following your every move. He was covering your breakup. He did a whole video on your breakup video and then drops a bomb. And this picture of you in Vegas, all these things, you can explain the timeline, but I'm just going to like leave it open because that was super intense. And I'm sure that was like what feels like the beginning of a lot of complicated things for you.
Yeah, I think from my point of view, my first initial thought was, you know, my family and Preston's family has to like see our sex life online, you know? And like I thought about my dad and me and my dad don't have a relationship where we like discuss things like that. Not to be judgmental, but it may be weird if you do even. So I'm thinking of that.
But you had an entire podcast about sex, yet it's uncomfortable to discuss sex with your dad, which fair enough. But like you had an entire podcast that wasn't uncomfortable that your dad might happen across it. Like just I don't know why he would just happen across DCP's videos, why he would be watching that. Okay.
Of course. And then like Preston's family, I'm new to being in their life and now I'm bringing a lot of publicity to their life and in this way. And so first thought, like, oh my God, our families. And then second thought was like, you know, all the other things that followed. Which can I just say, that was very different because years before on social media, I didn't care about how it affected my personal life. And even though it sucked and I hated it, I was kind of glad to be like, I'm glad my first thought was I worried about my family. Because years prior, I wouldn't have worried about that. And I'm excluding my kids, of course. That's always been something that I've considered first. But like, other than that, you know, I've never, in the beginning days of YouTube, I didn't consider anybody in my real personal life. And I hated that. And I didn't even realize it. So then going back to the Dad Challenge stuff, it was like embarrassing for sure. But also that didn't feel like the point where everything was exposed for me. So that part I didn't really care about because in my personal life, people had already known about Preston. And that's what I had at that point was my personal life. The internet already hated me because I chose to leave a relationship that everybody felt was perfect. So he didn't really do anything there. It just was kind of embarrassing.
So you feel like...
Okay. The video that dropped that exposed you and your secret boyfriend had been dating for 9 months, which predates the breakup, didn't change anything.
The moment where things got super complicated in your life was the breakup video.
Yeah, because I felt, even though now, like I said, looking back, I realized how angry I was. At the moment, I felt like I was finally able to like start over, you know, and like actually, I don't know, figure out life, I guess, on my own with like my own confidence and all that. And the world came crashing down and it was like, actually, you're a piece of shit. And then I'm like, wait, am I a piece of shit? Like, what did I do? You know I left a relationship, but holy cow, like really all this, like if people really knew.
Yeah, like people break up all the time.
Yeah. And like, it's nothing against Oscar for both ways. We both treated each other very poorly and should have never been together. if people knew the real relationship, anybody would have left.
Sure.
I mean, there was not like drastic things that were happening behind the scenes, but still, like, nobody in our lives even looked at our relationship and was like, that's a relationship.
Correct.
Like, people all knew, like, you guys get along really well.
Yeah. You and Preston obviously were like exploring sexually, which I think, like, as you described, is empowering. Like, people can do what they want beneath the sheets. But both the presentation of like, hey, here's this photo, there's all this news, and just like hearing, oh, like threesome, that's kind of like some people are like with that, some people are not.
Yeah.
That's like a complicated thing.
That's already, kind of.
Yeah. How did you guys deal with that? Like, very personal. That's like very intense information to just be now everybody knows we had a threesome.
Yeah. Like I said, it was embarrassing, but also I didn't really care about that. Like, who are you to tell me what I can and can't explore? Like, that really never bothered me. It just was awkward to have it like aired without you knowing. But one thing that was frustrating is I didn't care that it was out there. It was really weird to like, we met this girl in Vegas, and it was kind of our newer experiences with having threesomes at this time, because she wasn't the only one we had done that with. And she was super nice and we got along great. And then this happened and it was like, whoa, that's weird. You knew who I was the whole time.
Oh.
And you didn't say anything. And then you acted like everything was so.
No, she didn't. No, she didn't know who you were the whole time. She said that one of her friends told her afterwards, when she said that she had a threesome in Vegas, she showed her friend the picture and her friend said, that's Kyra from OK Baby. The girl didn't know. And then the reason she decided to reach out to DCP was because she felt guilty and horrible because they told her that they'd been together for 9 months at that point, and the timeline didn't add up. So no, she didn't know who you were. Don't even.
So fine and dandy, and then you went and like
exposed us.
Yeah. So it's just like felt like intrusive. Like, I don't know the word, but like, yeah, it just made me feel uneasy.
Well,
like,
you were
that's
vulnerable with somebody who knew more about you.
Yeah, like now you've seen me naked, and I like, yeah, it's so weird. It just felt like really weird. But then the extra mile of it is then she lied about so much on top of it. Like, the base is definitely true. I've never denied that. But there is a lot of things she added to the story, but it's hard because then you're like, well, it's true, but it's not really, And then that's where I feel like, just never mind, like whatever. But it was frustrating. Like, a lot of the things that she said were like quite literally the opposite.
Like what?
Like, one of the examples is she said, I think somebody was throwing up or something like that. When actually I went to the bathroom, Preston got uncomfortable or something, and he like faked going to the bathroom. But then I noticed he was taking a while, so I went in there and was like, are you okay? You know? And he was like, I just like, no, can we? And I was like, okay, I got this. Like, I'll figure this out. And I had drinks in me, so the confidence was like, no problem. Like, this is gonna be easy. And I went out there and she threw up. And so, and I felt like we were all drinking. So it's like not a bad thing that she threw up. Who gives a shit? I've thrown up from drinking. It happens. Same. But for her to then go on the internet and say, I think that like, I don't even remember now, but one of us threw up or something like that. I'm like, odd thing to lie about, but okay. And that's a small example. There's a lot of other things, but just that sucks because base story, accurate. More than that, not really. And that's what sucks. There's been a lot of people in my personal life that have said things and then that thing is true, but everything else is not. But I also know as a viewer, how do I explain that? You know, like I don't know how to, nothing I say matters because it's not fun. That story's more fun.
Yeah. People like to hear what they want to.
Yeah.
I want to get into Dad Challenge podcast because.
But like, this is your time to explain it. Why is she not explaining it? What don't we understand? The only thing she said is, I've explained this multiple times in the past, but blah, 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 then didn't explain anything. And she's still being so elusive. That's why I'm getting this. I can't give her the benefit of the doubt. I can't believe what she's saying right now, even though it seems really genuine. Like, in my opinion, what she's saying, it feels genuine, like a genuine conversation, not that she's trying to search for things or trying to make stuff up on the fly. Could be rehearsed. Who knows? She could have had the interview questions beforehand. Who knows, right? You know? Do you agree or am I off here? Because I could just be pearl clutching, but I'm trying really, really hard to give Kyra the benefit of the doubt. I think there is a redemption arc for people if growth and change is noted. But again, she's not taking any accountability here. She's not taking anything.
Obviously, he's been ultra complicated in your life. He spent, his career is probably like 70% hating on you.
I just want to cut at this point, Like, come on, can we split the shares here? Yeah.
How is that? Because every time you post a video, he's probably gonna, not even probably, like he's gonna snark on you, as he would say. How's that been?
It's been obnoxious for sure. I am weirdly like grateful that I'm in a position, like how cool somebody cares to like make a video 5 minutes after I upload. Literally, like that's wild, So on one hand, I'm like, that's pretty cool. I got like my own paparazzi over here. I'm sad that it's not real paparazzi, it's him. But like the grand scheme of things, I try to be grateful about it. It's just, again, it affects so many people in my personal life. And recently, I actually had a conversation with him, very short, and it was
with Josh,
and he was kind, but that was kind of my like, the math really isn't mathing here. Like, and I did say you're kind of this way here, but then you're that way there, and he was like, well, I'm not a monster, and my response was, well, I think we have different versions of what that is because I will say he's a hard worker. That guy puts out a video
pumps out
quick, like, and he has personality and all of it, but he said, you know, his thing to me was, well, it's my job. And I'm like, well, your job is my life. It's not just my job. Yeah. So talk all the shit you want about me, but please be mindful that my kids are watching these videos. And everybody wants to say through like my breakup and all these different situations that, you know, oh my God, her kids. And it's like, actually my kids now live in a home where they're not hiding from their parents fighting. They know what a happy relationship looks like in both homes. Yeah. And they see their parents happy. They know that like, they don't have to stay in a situation that they're not in. Sure, there's things that they're also probably gonna be like, Mom, like, what were you thinking? And we'll have that conversation when that time comes, because like, I don't want my kids to think every choice I made was a great one, you know? But at this point, the videos of that people are making saying like, imagine what the kids think. Those are the videos that my kids are watching and that they feel some type of way of, because they're excited to watch that somebody made a video about mom or dad, and then it's that.
Yo, there's no way. There's no way she lets her kids go and watch YouTube videos about them. That is so irresponsible. Why would you let your kids do that? Why would she let her? That's almost as bad as letting kids read hate comments and stuff. Why would you let your kids watch that? It's like the Poll family. They did that. They had their kids watch my video. And I do try to be mindful and respectful of it, but it's like, don't let your kids watch videos about you. Why would you do that? Especially because they're like 11.
Yeah.
And so actually you're the one who's traumatizing my kids, even though you're the one saying that you want to protect the kids. So that's been really, really frustrating. Like I try to just respect that, like he's career driven, like he sees the money and he's just trying to, but also I'm like, you're a dad, you're a husband. Like at one point I think he was like a pastor. Like what are you doing? Like really, what is the logic? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, well, he'll be on the show, so we'll get his logic.
You're brave.
It's fascinating, kind of like what you're saying. I want to talk to him. I do want to understand the angle. Real quick, the child exploitation piece, because it's a good segue, because that's his bread and butter. You've taken your kids completely offline. I think you've done an incredible job, by the way. Given how you started, and like that was so normal for you, and now you're like not putting them on.
Yeah.
Just talk about that.
I think that I was one of those people when, you know, that first came out of like, take your kids off the internet. I was like, people are so dramatic. Like who's using their kids for content? Like, and I genuinely felt that way. Like I know a lot of family creators and I have yet to meet one where I'm like, they are exploiting their children, or even that they're not very good moms. I don't surround myself. If I don't think you're a good mom, I automatically just don't like you as a human. So I didn't think that could be a thing. And I made videos on like, people are so dramatic. Like that's just ridiculous. And then I had friends that took their kids off the internet. And I'm like, well, you're dramatic, but okay. Like I'm going to keep my kids on the internet.
Sure.
Because my kids were having fun. They liked being in videos. I liked watching the video back like years later. Like that was an awesome thing that I was able to do. I think that we experienced way more in life when they were on camera. And then it was like, that's the thing. That shows right there that like,
yeah, that's dangerous.
That's where things change. And so I originally took my kids off the internet because I received a video, and I'll just leave that there. People can just like it wasn't a video of me, but people altered a video and it involved my kids. And I immediately called Oscar and was like, we've got to stop. Like we need to at least take them off right now while we like.
Jesus Christ. She got sent an altered video of her and her kids. Oh my God, I have goosebumps. I couldn't imagine seeing that. I couldn't imagine seeing that with my eyeballs. So she called Oscar and said, we need to take them off. Wow. You know what? That really doesn't surprise me though. In the grand scheme of things, doesn't surprise me because yes, Kyra she's very selfish for what she did. We can all be there, right? But she seems to put her kids somewhat first. Not really, not 100% first. But she seems to be mindful of her kids. So for her to get a video like that and be like, whoa, nope, done. Let's fix what we can now. And now Oscar is going back on it. You think maybe he forgot about this conversation? So what I was going to say is it doesn't surprise me that Oscar was the go, put the kids online, because he was the one that was like super hyper into it. And it doesn't sound like Kyra was into it. She was into the attention and the money, but not into YouTube and making YouTube videos and content creation and stuff like that. So, okay.
And talk about this and decide. And of course he was like, that's crazy. Like we absolutely will take them off. So we both took them off. And ever since we just really haven't talked about it, but continued to take them off the internet. So just as time has gone on, I've been like, I'm really glad that I did that. And also the pressure of just, even if the kids are having fun, like, hey, can you do that again for the camera? Like think about like, just as, I mean, you have a daughter, like you do that with her, not for YouTube, but just like, oh my God, that was cute. Do it again. But when you're doing it on YouTube, you do it even more. Yeah. And it's
dangerous.
Yeah.
It's
and the mentality also changes from like doing it because it's like, that was cute. That was a cute laugh. Or you walked for the first time to, oh, people will love that. that will get more views if you do that.
Totally.
Yeah.
And then that's where it just slowly can become more toxic. So it's not like it has to be drastic. Like,
yeah, and exploitative. Yeah, that makes sense. Interesting how there's the shift. And she's kind of saying, again, the quiet part out loud, if we fill in the blanks here. So basically you post a cute video, realize that that's what hits the algorithm. So it's like, okay, let's make more videos like this. People like seeing this. Then it becomes a little bit more performative, trying to, again, it's like keeping up with the Joneses type thing. So
I thought like it can be in little ways. And so, yeah, I'm glad that I did it. I don't think there will ever be a day where I will put them back on camera. It is hard because my older ones now, you know, they're like, I want to make a YouTube video. And it sucks because like their friends will, but their friends also have the opportunity to post a video and say and do whatever and maybe not be canceled right away. Yeah. And my kids don't have that. If they make a video right away, the wrong people are going to.
And there you go. Just another consequence to your crappy behaviors and actions. I didn't even think of that angle. Her kids can never have a career online and they are going to be ridiculed because of her digital footprint. And that is something that all parents need to keep in mind when posting the stuff that they post. You better be squeaky clean because the minute that something comes up that you're not squeaky clean, you're going to get canceled and your kids are going to suffer for the rest of their lives from it. Wild.
Find it. And I'm sure great people would find it too, but more than likely a drama channel is going to find it and then show that video, but blur their face and be like, I'm not exploiting them, even though they're reposting the video. So it's just not necessary. If they still have that passion and desire when they're older, then they're more.
Oh my God. That's so annoying. Well, we wouldn't have anything to talk about if you didn't post it on the internet. So stop posting your kids and exploiting your kids on the internet. We'll stop talking about the fact that you're exploiting your kids on the internet.
More than welcome. I will be fully supportive of it. But until their frontal lobe is more of a frontal lobe, then I'm not going to make that choice for them.
Funny, that's the exact reason why Allie has different opinions, but why not on sharing them. She doesn't want to share Scotty, our daughter, either. But like, I don't want to share her because of what you said of like, I never want to get in the moment where I'm like, I wish we would have filmed that. Or like, oh, this would get so many likes. Because that's real. Like that feeling is real.
Plus, really quickly, if you go to Disneyland, let's say with your daughter, if you go just as you normally go, because I think I saw you guys just went to Disneyland, you are going to just enjoy the day. You're going to take pictures and videos, of course. But imagine if you knew you had to make a video during that day and had to be a certain amount of time long. It had to be interesting. You need a title and thumbnail. Don't forget to take a picture. All of a sudden, all those intimate moments with your daughter that you may have had.
It's work.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you still don't enjoy it or that you're abusing her all of a sudden. It just means that it did take away from that experience.
And what's even more sad is that from her perspective, it's the same. I think that's what's scary because they're so innocent.
Yeah.
It's like, it's weird. It's exploitation.
Yeah.
It seems like you find a lot of joy through your kids too.
I really find so much purpose in being a mother and like, not even like what it makes me feel as a mom, but like watching my kids experience the world and like being able to be a part of their journey and being like, I get to be somebody's mom. Like somebody gets to look at me and I didn't grow up really with, I had a mom in the room, but there was no mom in the room. So I get to be important to somebody and play a role in their life. And I get to watch them do amazing things, probably make some mistakes, but also, you know, hold their hand while they do that because that's hard.
Last thing that the only other scripted question, you see my notes?
I love the notes.
The notes are great. I'm a liar. It's just like, where are you now? You're kind of back in the wild, wild west, right? Where it's like new you're not showing your kids, new content journey. Like, who is Kyra now?
I would say that's another good question. You have good questions. Your scripted questions are good questions. I think right now I am, you know, getting comfortable with who I am and realizing who I am will always change. You know, there's like that saying that like, you're just trying to find yourself. You never find yourself, but that's the good thing. You're always on that journey and the journey is always better. So cheesy than the destination, but it's true. And so, you know, I'm trying to just learn to appreciate like getting there and like going through all the ups and downs. So yeah, I definitely feel like I'm in a happier place and I'm really grateful and I love being a mom. And yeah, I'm just like learning to love myself, you know?
Kyra, yeah, I just look forward to everybody listening to this.
Thank you.
Interesting. I'm on the fence. I don't know how I feel about that video. That kind of gave me some more Kyra points. Not gonna lie. I don't think Kyra's a terrible person, and I understand, like, you can't help who you love. We've all made mistakes like that before. I feel like the problem is that she's so unapologetically not sorry about it. And we saw a little bit more of the emotion aspect of it here, which was nice to see. Other than that, no, it still felt so vague. I still don't understand what happened and also still don't understand what this whole thing that I'm missing is. At the end of the day, very interesting that Oscar's now considering putting his kids back online. And I really wonder, what do you guys think? Do you think Kyra will fight that if Oscar does decide, hey, like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna put the kids back online, knowing that there's creepy people, knowing that there's creepy videos of her children out there already? Because I don't think that it's a good idea to put the kids back online. Surprise, surprise, but I don't think it's a good idea. I think that Oscar could be successful in whatever he does, and I think that the kids could be fleetingly in his vlogs and stuff. But with his level of editing, go be a video editor. Go pick up some editing jobs on the side and do that. That pays well, and he's very talented. I don't think his last resort is exploiting his children on YouTube, but I guess we'll see what happens. I don't think Kyra's gonna put her kids back online. Good. But if Oscar does, it's like it doesn't matter if Kyra does anymore or not. And if Kyra doesn't go fight to keep her kids offline, well, that's kind of tells you all that you need to know about it. But I'm pretty sure that is all I have for you guys for this video. Thank you for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do like more blind reaction commentary type videos, please like this video because it'll tell me to keep making more like this. And don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell and set it to all. When you ring it, it's set to personalized. You got it to all, and maybe YouTube will stop doing me dirty now. Thank you so much for taking the time to do that and taking the time to spend your morning, afternoon, whenever this is posted with me. I hope you guys are having an amazing day wherever you are in the world, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye, guys.